The economy is not doing well. I think we're all feeling it. This whole channel is basically me ranting and venting about my own personal experiences, about what I've been going through, trying to navigate and survive in this crazy United States economy. But I want to just shine a light on the current news and current reports on the credit scores of average Americans. And it turns out that the credit scores just logged their biggest one-year drop for approval rates since the 2008 Great Recession. And what this means is a lot of people are not paying their loans, and they're not paying off their credit cards, and they're defaulting, meaning like they are going to collections. I'm not going to go into the hardcore stats. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a expert in this field. I'm just a general average person navigating through his life and trying to share my experience as an average Joe to you guys. But basically, Gen Z and most people are just using their credit cards more often than the last few years, more than ever, because one, unemployment is skyrocketing, and people are either having to find new jobs that are typically paying less than they were before, or they're straight out unemployed, just like me. If I had if my credit score was in the dollar amount, I probably couldn't afford to buy a PS5 Pro. So you do the math and try to figure that out. But anyways, according to this article, everyone is struggling, but Gen Z is getting hit the hardest because of their high student debt, and because they are new at their career. Gen Z, they're just graduating college and stuff. So typically when they get into the job market, they're getting the lower entry jobs rather than the higher paying ones. So that's like a double edge, not a double edged sword. It's a double negative. It's like an insult to injury, because they have these student loans, but then when they finally get out of college, they have to find a job in this ridiculous job market. And then when they do find a job, most of these people are getting paid maybe $20 an hour because it's an entry level job. And then they're fighting against AI. But that's Gen Z. Even people who are millennials like me are struggling, unless you didn't job hop and you didn't you didn't sabotage your career like I did. You have a better chance, but it's still difficult even for those with experience. They're giving some examples of real life people. Like, for example, this person, he's 22 years old. He applied to hundreds of jobs after graduating in 2024, and then it took him over a year to find a full-time job, one that wasn't a scam. In my previous videos, I talk about how there's a lot of shady jobs out there. So it sounds like this guy probably ran into a lot of scam opportunities. But lucky for him, he found a job as a secretary at a law firm. But here it says that the secretary job had a drastic pay cut versus his work as a server. So think about it. This dude's 22 years old, went to college, graduated. He was working as a fast food worker, as a server. And then now he's a secretary at a law firm, but he's getting paid less than what he was doing, handing out food to customers and taking orders. Isn't that a little depressing? And I'm sure he has $35,000 in student debt. That is crazy. Yeah, so the FICO score fell to 750 from 717. So overall, it fell down 2 points. And that is the fastest drop since 2009. And if you're wondering why the year 2008 or 2009 keeps coming up, is because that is the peak recession period within our lifetime, within the past 2 decades. It was when companies were closing out. It was when people couldn't afford their homes and they were foreclosing. It's when people were jumping off bridges because it was that bad. It's when people were fighting over who could build the best Subway sandwich to get a job at Subway. That's a real story, by the way. You can look it up on Reddit. During the 2009 recession, people were lined up to compete in who could build the best sandwich in order to get a job at Subway. And I think just hearing about that makes me a little bit terrified about what's going to hit us in the 2025-2026 recession, with AI and stuff. But let's see. Let's wrap this video up. Delinquencies hit almost 10% by April 2025. So delinquency basically means people who fail to pay their loans and credit cards, and it's like a negative mark on the record. Yeah, so FICO found that delinquency rates on auto loans, credit cards, and personal loans are at or near the highest level since 2008. That is insane. FICO found that 14% of Gen Zers have had a large credit card score decline of 50 points or more in the past year. That is a huge dip. And you know, I was always wondering, how are like these concerts and theme parks like Coachella or Horror Nights Universal, they're so packed and the tickets are so expensive. They're in the multiple hundreds of dollars just for one ticket. And I question, like, if people are struggling to pay their groceries, how are they going to these places? And then I should know, out of all the people, they're using their credit cards and they're maxing out their credit cards. And that's probably what's going on here. But anyways, that's just a quick reaction to what's going on. Let me know in the comments. If you're part of this group, if you're part of this statistic, how have you been handling your credit card? Have you been using it to just survive? Or have you been doing things smart? And have you been avoiding being part of the statistic? Let me know in the comments below, and share your thoughts. This was just a quick video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content. I will see you in the next video.